Over 3,000 years ago, King Solomon ruled over Israel and constructed the first temple in Jerusalem. During his reign, his merchant ships embarked on voyages to distant lands. Among these journeys, they sailed to Kerala, a region beautifully nestled between the glistening Arabian Sea and the majestic Western Ghats. Upon arriving in Kerala, they established themselves in the historic port city of Muziris, which is now known as Kodingalur. Over the following centuries, the community spread out to different regions in Kerala. The history of Kerala's Jews goes back as far as to the biblical times, when trade in exotic items from Kerala such as ivory, sandalwood and spices flourished. Many centuries later, in 70 AD, the Jews were driven out from their own country by the Romans after destroying Jerusalem and the Second Temple. These refugees arrived the shores of Malabar, in the north of Kerala. It is believed that after the destruction of the Second Temple at Jerusalem, about 1,000 people arrived in the Malabar region. The Jews had been victims of anti-Semitism from age-old times, all over the world. However, Kerala was the only place where they faced no hostility. Kerala is perhaps in the whole world where the Jews have never been subjected to any form of persecution and torture, but on the other hand they were treated with respect, given higher state honors and full freedom to practice their religion and engage in trade or business activities to make their living. The Jewish community in Kochi was historically divided into two distinct groups: the White Jews, also known as Pardesi Jews, and the Malabari Jews, sometimes referred to as Black Jews. The Pardesi Jews, who arrived on the Kerala coast in the 15th century, fleeing persecution during the Inquisition in Spain and Portugal, kept themselves largely separate from the Malabari Jews, whom they viewed as socially inferior. On the other hand, the Malabari Jews were among the earliest Jewish settlers in India, tracing their arrival back to the time of King Solomon. The earliest documented evidence of a Jewish presence in Kerala dates to around 1000 CE, when a Jewish leader named Joseph Rabban was granted a set of copper plates inscribed with privileges by the Hindu ruler of Cranganore. These original copper plates are still preserved in the historic Paradesi Synagogue in Kochi, a remarkable institution that has stood for 460 years and remains the oldest functioning synagogue in the British Commonwealth. The Jews of Kerala, while integrating various Hindu customs into their daily lives, have carefully preserved their religious integrity, ensuring that these adaptations do not conflict with Jewish legal or ethical principles. This delicate balance has allowed them to maintain a distinct identity, even as they have creatively woven themselves into the fabric of their local culture. The Jews of Kerala built synagogues in the communities where they settled, each reflecting a blend of local architectural styles and their unique religious traditions. Although synagogues were typically designed as modest structures, their interiors held profound significance. One of the key features was their orientation. Each synagogue faced northwest, towards Jerusalem, allowing worshippers to pray in the direction of the Holy City. While the exterior of the synagogues blended seamlessly with Kerala's local landscape, the interiors revealed a distinct and sacred character. The layout of the synagogues included a sanctuary where the men sat around the bema, the central platform used for reading the Torah. The women, however, were seated in a separate gallery on the first floor, with their section featuring its own bema at the front, typically used during special occasions like the Sabbath. A grill separated the women's section from the main sanctuary below. These synagogues stand as important reminders of the once thriving Jewish community in the region. Kerala's Jewish community, once a vibrant and integral part of the cultural fabric of Kerala, has dwindled to a mere shadow of its former self. The creation of Israel in 1948 sparked a wave of migration, as many Jews from Kerala felt the pull of their ancestral homeland. The peak of this exodus occurred between 1952 and 1958, during which approximately 1,800 Jews made the journey to Israel. Today, the community is on the brink of disappearing altogether, with only 14 Malabari Jews and just a single Paradesi Jew remaining in Kerala. This migration was not just a matter of physical relocation but also a deeply spiritual journey, rooted in the biblical prophecy and Zionist ideology that emphasized the need for a homeland of their own. However, Their decision to leave for Israel was very painful for them. As they prepared to depart, friends and neighbors gathered at the synagogue to bid them farewell. The air was thick with the sorrow of parting, as hugs and tears were shared on the porch of the synagogue. The departing families were garlanded, and last words were exchanged with those who had been part of their lives for generations. In an emotional moment, the departing Jews sang a heartfelt song written by a Jewish resident of Kerala. The song, sung in Malayalam, expressed the deep pain of leaving their beloved homeland, yet also a firm acceptance of their fate. The lyrics, roughly translated, spoke of the necessity of the departure. Let us prepare to go to Israel. Leaving this dear land that has nurtured us is painful, but we must leave. Just as we are born, we all must die. Let us die and be buried in Israel. This song echoed through the journey to Alava railway station, where a large crowd of friends and relatives had gathered to say their final goodbyes. From Alava, they embarked on a long journey to Bombay, and from there, they set sail for Israel, their promised land. The Jewish community from Malla, a small town in the Thrissur district of Kerala, was among the first to migrate to Israel in large numbers. When the Malla congregation made Aliyah and began their journey to the Holy Land in 1955, they entrusted their synagogue and cemetery to the Malla Gram Panchayat, the local town council. This transfer was formalized on December 20, 1954, through an agreement signed between the synagogue trustees and the Grama Panchayat. The agreement, officially registered on January 4, 1955, at the sub-registrar office in Malla, outlined clear terms for the transfer, with a strong emphasis on safeguarding the sanctity of the Jewish cemetery. It strictly prohibits any digging, unearthing, or excavation on the cemetery grounds, ensuring that the burial site remains respected and preserved in accordance with Jewish traditions. The document outlines the specifics regarding 23 cents of property on which the Malla synagogue stands, as well as 4 acres of land designated as the Jewish cemetery, both situated in the heart of the town. The agreement stipulates that the Panchayat will be responsible for the maintenance and repair of both the synagogue building and the cemetery. Additionally, it requires the erection of proper signboards to clearly identify these locations as Jewish monuments. The agreement also guarantees that these properties will never be encroached upon or repurposed for other uses. It is further agreed that the synagogue will not be used as a place of worship by any other community. The tombstones within the cemetery are to remain undisturbed, along with the surrounding land. The cemetery will be enclosed by a proper wall with a gate, ensuring its sanctity and security. Moreover, the land will remain available for the burial of any Jew for all time, preserving the site's original purpose and significance. In Jewish tradition, cemeteries are deeply revered as sacred spaces where the deceased await resurrection. Until that day, the graves must be carefully protected, as any act of vandalism or desecration is believed to profoundly disturb the souls resting there. For the Jewish community, the preservation and respect of cemeteries are vital religious and social duties. These responsibilities ensure that the departed find eternal peace and rest. Any disturbance or disrespect shown toward a grave is thought to cause suffering to the departed soul, making the care of these burial grounds an essential expression of reverence and compassion. Unfortunately, the agreement was violated even before the ink dried on the agreement. The western side of the synagogue was sealed off to make way for a shopping complex. No effort was made to maintain or repair the site. At one point, the synagogue was even used as a primary school, and later, it became a community hall. Some shopkeepers encroached the space which served as the main pathway to the synagogue. The Heritage Protection Group lodged a court case. Miscreants retaliated by breaking windows of the synagogue. For decades, the synagogue fell into a state of neglect. The cemetery gradually descended into a desolate wasteland. Trees were felled, and footpaths began to carve through the grounds. The once sacred Jewish cemetery was transformed into a grazing field for cattle, with portions turned into playgrounds. Local residents wandered through freely, and a significant portion of the cemetery was divided off to make way for a sports complex. The cemetery's walls and gates had fallen into disrepair, crumbling away over time. Now, only 3 of the more than 100 tombs that once stood there remain. The rest had been vandalized or stolen, their stones carted away. Throughout this period, Panchayat officials and political leaders conspicuously remained silent, as these unauthorized activities went unchecked. For them, there was no Jewish community left in Malla to play vote bank politics. In April 2013, Dan Elias and Abby Abraham, descendants of Malla's former Jewish community, filed a case with the Irinjalakuda subcourt, demanding the return of the synagogue and cemetery. They argued that the Panchayat had breached the 1955 deed. The court ordered an immediate halt to construction activities. Subsequent visits by representatives from the Israeli consulate in Bangalore and Kerala's archaeological department of the monuments. However, on July 27, 2016, an Israeli delegation of Kerala Jews, led by Yossi Oren, visited the cemetery and asked the officials, "Where is the thing we handed over to you?" The Panchayat had no answers. Later, a widespread movement emerged to advocate for the preservation of the Jewish synagogue and cemetery, spearheaded by the Heritage Protection Council. This initiative garnered support and collaboration from various organizations, including the Indian National Trust for Art and Cultural Heritage. Today, both the cemetery and synagogue are recognized as protected monuments. The government of Kerala has included the site in the Muziris Heritage Project, undertaking its conservation as part of their broader heritage preservation efforts. Let us honor the peace of the departed, allowing their souls to rest undisturbed. May they find eternal tranquility. Shalom.